Hello and welcome back to the Therapy by Craft YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. I am the maker and host behind Therapy by Craft. Today we're gonna have a surprise unplanned episode. Going to record an episode this week, but I finished so many socks and I have plans for so many more. So in order to preemptively reduce the length of whatever episode is coming next, I decided to record something today. And also because by next week, I will not have these socks in my possession anymore because they're gonna be gifts. So, surprise. Hi, I hope you're doing well and that you are ready to sit and chat with me for a bit about basically so many socks. I have 4 finished objects for you. Yes, 4. 2 works in progress, like 3 if you count a blanket of mine. And then I do want to share later on plans that I have for socks that I'm envisioning casting on very soon. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, then yeah, let's get started. Oh yes, so I don't think that I can't remember if this was a finished object last time, but the first sock that's going in my mom's box of socks is the Scrappy Storyteller Stitchery Socks. They look like this. Oh, I think I did talk about it in last week's episode, so I'm not going to go into depth about it, but here they are. The second, it does have a pair. Here we are. And this is the first sock that's going in my mom's box of socks. So it is a scrappy sock. I did everything like I did 10 rounds of every color, 20 rounds for the cuff, 2x2 rib, 20 round leg, heel flap and turn, gusset, and then I think it's like 60 or 70 rounds for the leg, or for the foot before I decrease for the toe. This is number 1. I started this on July 30th and finished it on August 4th. And these, oh gosh, I slapped myself with the sock. These socks took 56 grams total out of my stash. Okay, the second one I think is one that you guys have seen before, but I haven't actually finished the pair, and that is my Opal Socks. Ta-da! And it's pair. Yay! So these I started way back in May, and I finished one sock sometime around then, but then I saved the second sock for summer sock camp. And I don't usually do that. I usually finish both of my socks around the same time because I make them in tandem. But this one I took with me when I went on a short trip and I just wanted some straight vanilla socks, and I was doing it one at a time because I didn't want to cake up or re-cake my cake into 50-gram balls. Second one is finally done. This one I started on May 9th. So the first one I started May 9th, and then I finished it on August 5th. Ooh, this is number 24 of the year. And this is number 25 for the year. 20 round cuff of 2x2 ribbing. I think I did, what is that? 60 round leg. This is another heel flap and gusset, 70 round foot. And I think last week I was talking about potentially having to rip back if the sock was gonna be too big, but I'm not gonna do that. Or I did not do that. I just, yeah, I just made it to the 70 rounds and kept it as is. I think it's gonna fit my mom just fine. What was I gonna say? Oh, I wish I knew what number sock this was for summer sock camp. Let me go backwards. I think this might be number 10. No, 11 or 12 for summer sock camp. And I'm also entering this for the Knit All the Stripes knit along that Lisa of Knit All the Yarn podcast on YouTube and 72 Stitches on Instagram is hosting. So this is great. It's going in, I'm double dipping and I'm putting this in both of those sock knit alongs. And then my third sock for my mom's box of socks is my Full Moon Flight Scrappy Socks. That's what I'm calling them. And this is what they look like. Ta-da! And this is the second pair, or the second sock. And it doesn't match all the way. But I do want to sit and talk about this one for a little bit because I have been trying to practice some gratitude for the yarn that I already own. Man, these yarn dyers are killing me, man. They like continue to release colorways that are so dang good, and it is hurting me a little bit. It's hurting my wallet, but also it's hurting my heart because I can't really justify buying them. And here's what I mean. So I've noticed that when I see new colorways being released, there's something that happens in my brain, or there's a thought that comes creeping into my mind, which sounds something like, ooh, those are so pretty. I want to have that. And do I have the funds to actually buy the yarn? Also, do I have the time and the space in my schedule to actually use that yarn when I receive it? And then it goes to, no, not really, but I want to support, small business owners. So what the heck? And then I end up buying it. But then what also ends up happening is that I get the yarn and it just kind of sits there. And I've noticed lately that I've been feeling a lot more, guilt is not the word. It's more like burden, like pressure to use the yarn that I have. So I tried out this thing, and this is actually a product of this experiment that I'm doing with myself, which is Full Moon Fibers has some amazing colorways. Like seriously, it's so beautiful. And each time they post something, I want it. I want everything that they make, all of their colorways. And back when we had the eclipse, I think it was like the full solar eclipse, they had a sale for their solar eclipse base yarn, or basically anything that had like eclipse or solar in the name, like they had a sale. And when that sale came, I went and grabbed a bunch of stuff. Now, I realized that maybe what I can do in honor of these yarn dyers releases, I could just grab the yarn that I already own from these people and make socks with them and work with them so that I don't have such FOMO, but also I can tangibly work with and feel how long it takes to knit and work with the yarn, but also recognize how much mileage I'm able to get from a skein of yarn. Case in point. And then the other thing I realized was I don't actually have to have scraps from these yarns to make scrappy socks. So what I did, when I purchased it a while back from Full Moon Fibers, I got 3 colorways plus a mini set. I got my favorite granny square, which is just, oh my God, so much fun. I also got Metamorphic, which is like a blue, tealy, gray. It's like amazingly moody. And then I also got Reading Past My Bedtime, which is a little bit more purpley. I don't know if that's gonna focus, but that's what that looks like. And initially I was like, oh, I wanna work with all the colorways. And I thought I was stuck because I hadn't worked into any of these skeins. But then I realized, wait, I can work with all the colorways. These, like, I own these. I make up the rules. I can do whatever I want. And so instead of waiting until I had scraps from these full cakes, I just worked with the full cake. And I did kind of like a sampling of each color as I worked through these socks, which is why I'm calling these my full moon flight, because it's like a flight of colors, and then I'm like sampling each of them. So the toe and the cuff was, for this sock anyway, was made with my favorite granny square, and it was such a delight to work with that. All of the heels were made with Reading Past My Bedtime. And then this sock's cuff and toes were made with Metamorphic, which is also just a wonderful speckly yarn. And I kind of ooh and awe and gush about full moon fibers every time I see it, like every time they come up on my Instagram, because I don't know what it is that they do. Their speckling is just so good. And you can see here, like, it's just very evenly spaced. There's not that much pooling. There's some pooling, but not too much. And it's just, I don't know, it was a pleasure. These other colors, these brighter colors that you see, is the mini, I think it's the mini set. The mini set is Reading Past My Bedtime, which is this color. But I think she kind of, what do they do? Do they deconstruct the colorways or something like that, so that the minis have some of these bright colors in the minis? It comes in a pack of 6. Yeah, I think it's 6 minis. I used a lot of them, and so I only had like a little bit left, but even with 1 gram, I was able to do about 5 rounds. So I started off doing like 10 round sections, and I realized like, oh, I don't have enough to do more 10 round sections, so I ended up doing 5 round repeats closer to the toe of the sock. And I love that. I was so pleased with my experience of doing what, you know, I'm calling like a sampling of the colorways from a specific yarn dyer, because I didn't have that FOMO feeling of that new collection that they had released. It was a pre-order for their Christmas colorways, and they were all really beautiful. And again, I was very tempted, but look, I have so much of their yarn already that I haven't, you know, these are at least 3 pairs of socks that I can still make, plus scraps that I can make, or scrappy socks that I can make with these. And so I don't know, I feel inspired when I see new colorways being released by these yarn dyers. I feel inspired to use the ones that I already own, if that makes sense. So later I have another yarn dyer that I want to feature today and share kind of what my plans are with those yarns, because I have a lot of those yarns also. And I think I was sort of sitting around and twiddling my thumbs waiting to have like scraps, or feeling the sense that I need to make at least a pair of socks with each of those colorways before I can use them with scraps. But this has really freed me up from that mentality. And so now I'm looking forward to making scrappy socks with the bunch of yarn that I own from this other dyer. But anywho, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So that's that. All of my socks, by the way, I make on ChowGoo red lace needles, US 1 or 2.25 millimeters, I believe. That's the size, 32 inches. And I do all of my socks on magic loop. And unless I specifically say, they are also all 64 stitches. Next, after my full moon flight, well, this is kind of similar. I used my Dunkaroo colorway by the Frosted Stitch. Krista is also releasing, she's another yarn dyer who released a gorgeous collection. I think it's is it the Rust collection or something like that? But it was like colorway after colorway after colorway of just like gorgeous yarn based on the like metal and various elements and characteristics of metal. God, it was so, the colorways are really good, but her introduction and the storytelling and the education behind that collection was also really amazing. And I, again, was feeling a lot of FOMO because I really don't need any more yarn, and I am feeling like the pressure and the sense of overwhelm that I feel about my yarn is tipping greater than the joy I am receiving from buying yarn. So I pulled out the Dunkaroo colorway, which is part of Krista's, I think, Millennium collection, and finished this pair of socks. Ta-da! Oh, I don't know if you can hear my mom and Sam downstairs. This is actually from the same skein. These two socks are from the same skein. I did something a little differently this time too. Like I mentioned before, I usually get my ball, I cake it up, or I get my skein, I cake it up, and then I rewind that cake into 250-gram balls so that I can work my socks in tandem. When I show you my whips later, I'll show you what I mean. But with something like this, where it's highly like speckled and variegated, and it's not like a self-striping yarn, I realized, wait, I don't have to re-cake it. I can just pull from the center of the ball and then also work from the outside of the ball. Like, why do I have to rewind it? And I don't think it's an original idea. I think I saw it from a podcast like a long time ago, but that was when I wasn't knitting socks, so it didn't really register to me as an option because, again, I wasn't knitting socks. But then it dawned on me as I was like caking up this yarn, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to cake this again. I don't want to re-cake it into two. And then I was like, oh, I don't have to. So yeah, the inside of the cake looked like this, and then the outside of the cake looked like this. And I love how different it is. Isn't hand-dyed yarn like so cool? Like, I love that. Okay, the highlighter yellow color is from Cascade Heritage. And I did a pop of color at the cuff. I followed Kay of the Crazy Sock Ladies tutorial on that. I think I did like, including the cast on, I did 2 additional rounds of that pop of color. I finished out the 20 round cuff. Again, 20 rounds for the leg, another heel flapping gusset. And then for the foot, I think I worked about 54 rounds in the foot before introducing the contrast color again. And I did 5, then 2 of the main color, 5 again, 2, and then I worked about 3 more rounds of the contrast before decreasing for the toe. So that's how I did the toe. I just wanted a little bit more of that neon to peek through. So that's what I did. Oh, I didn't give you dates for this one. The full moon flight socks were this was number 26, pair number 26 for the year. I started them August 6th and I finished them August 9th. Yes, I finished them in 3 days because I could not put them down. This one, I started them on August 5th and finished them on August 11th. Total for this was 48 grams for these socks. Total grams for this pair was 61 grams. This is an 80-20 base. This one is a 75-25 4-ply. This is a 2-ply. So you can see how like the grams or the different bases really impact how much yardage you get, right? And so, I mean, it makes sense. I think this one, it's like 427 yards or something for 100 gram. This one's like 400 for 100 grams. So, yep, makes sense. But yeah, that concludes my box of socks for my mom. So this one, then this one. Ooh, that was precarious. And then this one, and then this one. My little fan, my sock fan. This is what I've got for her box of socks. Now, my last finished object to share with you is another pair of socks. But this is for my baby. Ta-da! This is actually on a Selena base. I don't know if you can see it, if there's like any sparkle that you can see. These are for my daughter. This is pair number 28 for the year. Together, it was 26 grams. I started these August 10th, finished them August 12th. And it only took that long because I actually had to rip back one of the socks because they were too short. So Samantha loves the song Baby Beluga, and I actually didn't know the song, but she learned it at school at daycare, and then she brought it home to us and just like would sing it all the time. And so we looked it up on Spotify, and we, it became a part of our regular like song rotation with her. But I saw that Desert Vista Dye Works had like a farewell tour for these like nursery songs, like a collection of yarns based on nursery songs, and Baby Beluga was one of them. And when I saw that, it just really tugged at my heartstrings because I remember such good fond memories of like listening to her sing, Baby Beluga and all that. And so I got a skein for her, and I got it on the Selena base because, of course, for a 5-year-old now, why would that not be delightful? And I thought she had forgotten about it because I got it like a couple months ago. And when the yarn came, I was like, Samantha, look, I got, these socks, and do you remember Baby Beluga? And she's like, oh yeah, that's so cool. And she goes, oh, are you gonna make me socks with those? And I said, yes, I'm gonna make you a pair of socks. And she was like, yeah, and she was very excited. And then I didn't forget about it. I just didn't do it. But as I was like cranking out like these socks back here, Sam was like, oh, does this mean that you finished my Baby Beluga socks too? And I was like, nope, I have not. And she's like, well, where is it? Why haven't you finished it? And I said, well, I haven't really started them yet. And she was like, you didn't even start my Baby Beluga socks? And I was like, nope. So we wound it up together like right then and there. I was like, you're right. I need to make you your socks. And she's been waiting very, very patiently for them. It's been months since I've made her a pair of new socks. I think the last time I made a pair for her was maybe like in May, something like that. I don't know. It was a couple months. And for a while there, I was making her new socks every month. And so she was like, huh, it's been a while since you've made me socks, Mom. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do that right now. And this is what happened. I actually asked her to go through her sock drawer and to let me know which socks were her favorite socks. And she came and she pulled out these like really bright rainbow socks, and I asked her, well, why do you like these ones? Do you like them for the color, or do you like them for the fit? And she goes, oh, it's because I like the color. I said, okay, well, why don't you go and look for the socks that fit you the best, the socks that are the most comfortable for you. And it was interesting because the socks that she pulled out were socks that I actually made with the shadow wrap heel. And I was like, oh, are those the ones that you like the most, like in terms of how it fits you and how comfortable they are? And she was like, yeah, these are very, very comfortable. And I went back and I looked at the details for the socks, and I realized like, oh, you know, when I made the socks with the shadow wrap heel, I was able to find a stitch count that I think fit her like the best. So previously when I was making her socks with the heel flap and gusset, I was using like a 52 stitch count or a 56, no, it was a 56 stitch count because that's kind of what the patterns came with. Like the adult small was a 56 count, and I didn't want to do the math to kind of go down because there is some counting involved when you're doing the heel turn. But when I learned how to do the shadow wrap heel, I realized that one of the benefits of it is that I don't really have to do too much math when it comes to figuring out the heel portion and how much to like leave in between. I'll show you what I mean. There is decreases, there are short rows that are happening, right? And you're going back and forth, and then there's this little section here of like a certain number of stitches that you leave unworked as you continue to, you know, make your way back around to the remainder of the foot, or yeah, remainder of the sock. So anyway, when I learned how to do the shadow wrap heel, I realized that, oh, I don't have to do a 56 stitch sock. I can do like a 52 stitch sock, and that will hopefully fit a little bit more snug around her foot, and it'll, you know, just stay put on her foot a little bit better. So that's what I did, and surprisingly, that's the sock that she chose as the most comfortable socks in her sock drawer. So I said, great, I'm so glad that I know that. I'm going to use those exact measurements or the exact numbers to make your next socks. And that's what I did. I did 10 rounds of a 2x2 cuff. Then I did 30 rounds for the leg. I did a shadow wrap heel with a count of, I had 9 twin stitches on each side and 8 unworked stitches in the middle before I went back and picked up those twin stitches. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will leave a tutorial down below from Earth Tones Girl from Denise, and that's the one that really unlocked for me how to do the shadow wrap heel. But those are the numbers that I used, the 9, 8, 9. And then based on the previous socks that she brought to me, I would have been fine with 35 stitches or 35 rounds for the foot. But I guess her feet grew in the last several months because she told me that they were too small when I tried them on her the next day. So I ripped out the toe and I ended up doing 40 rounds for the foot instead, and that fits her pretty well right now. So that's my sock recipe for Sam, who wears a US toddler 8 shoe size right now. And I had put that recipe on my Instagram for the post for this for these socks, and I was very surprised at how many people like messaged me privately to tell me what a struggle it was for them knitting their kids' socks. Like, their feet are so cute and squishy and like adorable, and I just want to like chomp on them, but gosh, like making socks for those little tiny adorable feet for some reason are just, it's just so weird and wonky. So yeah, that's just my recipe right now for where she is in her life. I'm sure very soon that's going to change, but I'm thankful that Sam likes to wear her hand knit socks even in the summer. Like she's been wearing them even now. And yes, they are a little bit warm, but if she's going somewhere where she has to wear socks, like at her daycare, she has to wear socks and she has to wear like closed-toed shoes. So to school, like she'll wear them and she'll be fine. But yes, these are the baby Beluga socks for my daughter. It's my last finished object that I have to share with you. And now let's move on to whips. I have 2 sock whips and 1 blanket whip to share. The first sock whip that I'll share, it is housed in my bag from Mountain State Stitches. I finally got a Mountain State Stitches bag. Wait, did I tell you guys this already? I can't tell if I shared this. I might have already shared it, but I'm using it now. And it's just as great as I imagined it would be. I am making a pair of socks for one of my boss's girls. So I like to knit during my management meetings because they're long and we sit and we do a lot of discussing and strategizing and we talk a lot. And while we're talking, sometimes I have to jot down notes and I have to look up stuff on my laptop, which is totally fine. But other times when we're just really, you know, problem solving and strategizing together, my hands are free. So I knit. And naturally my management team knows that I knit. And I decided to knit my management team and then also my boss's daughters socks on their birthdays. Like I can't do it all at once, but on their birthdays I can. And one of them, their birthday is in August. So I am making her socks using my self-striping colorway from Valkyrie Fibers, right? Yeah, Valkyrie Fibers. It's on her matte sock base, which is a 75-25 base, 4-ply, that's the word I'm looking for. It's in her Season Scandal series in the colorway Sharma. And earlier when I was telling you guys that I like to cake my balls into 50-gram balls, this is what I mean. So I wound up, I think it came in a gobstopper ball. Unpopular opinion, I really don't like the gobstopper ball. I think it visually looks super cute and it's very cute to take pictures of, but when I'm working with it, I don't really like it that much. It like flies everywhere. And what I actually end up doing, I don't think I have any, what I actually end up doing is I use like washi tape to like use as a base for my gobstopper ball, and then I unwind and then I like rotate it so that I can go. But I honestly prefer to just do a center pull or a pull from the outside so that the ball can just sit in my project bag without it like rolling around everywhere. But anyway, okay, so I wound that gobstopper ball into a ball. And then I rewound it. I weighed it and then I divided it into two and I caked it up again. And this is what I ended up with. And I already have a pair of socks that I've made for myself in this colorway, but since I had so much left over, I am using that to make kid socks. She's a teenager, so I am using a 64 stitch count. And I'm just hoping that, you know, it'll fit her comfortably for however many years to come. I don't think I have enough to do the whole thing in that colorway. So for the heels anyway, I plan to use this, which is one of the Arcane Fiberworks colorways that I have. I think it's like Adventure is Calling or The Mountains Are Calling or something like that. But it's a very pretty blue and I think it'll go well as a contrast to this self-striping colorway. That is whip number 1. And whip number 2 is what I decided to do with my Advent. Last year, I purchased an Advent from McMullin Fiber Co. I wasn't supposed to get this Advent, but her Advent, I think, is like based on like classic books. And when I saw that, I just couldn't resist. And it was so pretty. Like I couldn't not get it. So I got it. And I'm so glad that I did. It was one of 2 Advents that I got. And since this was the one that I wasn't really sure, yeah, this was like the surprise Advent, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with it. And I've just been sitting on it for ages because I don't know, I love all the colors. I really fell in love with the Advent. And then all of a sudden I got very precious about it. You know what I mean, right? Like I felt like I needed to find the perfect project for these colors, and I don't know, I just wanted the perfect match, and it just wasn't happening. And I realized that instead of waiting for the perfect project to come along, I just need to work with it. Like, I just need to use it. Otherwise, I'm gonna have like choice paralysis. I'm gonna just freeze, and it's never gonna get worked up. And then what's the point? Like, that's so sad. So the first thing that I did, I caked up all of the minis. And oh, it's gonna be hard to see because they're kind of divided in other places. But I caked it up, and I put it into here. It's all caked up and all over the place. And what I decided to do is I decided to make a square for my fingering weight. Let me put this over here. My fingering weight granny square blanket, which is really like my third whip that I want to share. So far, it's looking like this. There's no way I can get the whole thing on here, but I will try. Right now it is 8 squares by 10 squares, I think. But it's gorgeous. I love it. Ooh. So all of my my scraps, as long as I have about like 4.5 grams or 5 grams of it, I will make a 5 round granny square to put into my blanket. I think last week I talked about how for the continuous join in the round, you need to have all of your squares done. But I quickly realized afterwards that is false. I don't have to have all the squares done, because I could just go and then I could pick it up again and just, I don't know, add some more. Like, I don't know why I thought that they all needed to be done in order for me to do the continuous join in the round. But as soon as I realized, oh no, I don't need to do that, I was like, okay, well then heck, I'm going to start joining these squares because they've been sitting and I want them. I want to know what it's going to look like. So I've been, so each of my advent minis, I am making a square to go into here, and I'm housing it in my amazing like space kitty bag. I got it at the SoCal Fiber Festival last year. Which, by the way, for those of you guys who are local, will you be there this year? I am planning to go. I hope to see you there. But anywho, that's where I got this bag. And I'm making these like 5 by 5 squares. Yeah, these 5 round granny squares to go into this blanket. And after doing that, I decided to use up these 24 colorways to make Scrappy Socks with all 24 colors. Oh, by the way, I gotta show you where I'm keeping, I gotta show you the sophisticated project bag that I am keeping this fingering weight project in. Ready? It's my daughter's like random Easter bucket. Like, yeah, this is my sophisticated project bag. I don't know where I got it from. I don't even know where Samantha got it from, but it is from last year, I believe. But yeah. Okay, so part of my Advent sock idea came from watching old episodes of both 72 Stitches, or Lisa from Knit All the Yarn podcast, and Lindsey, I believe, from Lazy Lemon Creations. Yeah, so what those ladies did, they took the 20 gram minis from one of their advents, I think it's the Harry Potter advent, and they made socks with each of them, like a single sock. And at the end of it, so they made 24 single socks so that they would have 12 pairs of mismatched socks by the end of that advent, and they would use every bit of that advent. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is freaking brilliant. That is so genius. I love that idea, but I also don't like the idea of making 24 socks. I think I would get so, like, that just sounds like such a long project to me that I don't want to do that. But I have been loving it, like this like potato chippy loving, making scrappy socks. So I thought I will do that with the advents instead. I am housing that project in 2 different places. One is in my A Needle Runs Through It cassette project bag. And this one is great because it sits flat. All of my scraps go into here and it's large enough to hold multiple minis at once. This is for when I'm on the go, like my work lunchtime knitting. But when I'm at home, I use this little basket that I picked up at, I think it was like Hobby Lobby or something. It was during one of their sales. So I got it from there. And look. Yay, look at how cute they are. I'm doing 10 rounds of each color. I am having them match because why not? And I think I started these maybe 2 nights ago or something like that. And so far, I'm loving it. I'm really, really liking them. And this is what I mean by I work my socks in tandem. I don't do 2 at a time in the sense that they're on the same needle. I hold my yarn in my left hand, and I didn't like this, like the dropping and picking up the yarn again. Like I didn't really like that. But I think it was Stephanie from Edible Thoughts Makes. I think she works her socks in tandem, and there are a couple others who had recommended that method to me, and that's the one that stuck. That kind of, really unlocked. That was like the life hack that I needed to really get the ball rolling on sock knitting, and I haven't looked back ever since. And what's great about doing these socks in tandem, like these scrappy socks in tandem, is that once I'm done with the color, so this one, for example, I already made a square for my granny square blanket. I made, this color also went into both of these socks for this pair. And the rest of this I'm going to use to go into this DK weight granny square blanket that I shared last week. I haven't really touched that, so that's why I'm not sharing it right now, but that's my plan for this Advent. I love the idea of having these colors together somewhere, like in my fingering weight blanket, and also being together in like a standalone project like these socks. Now I'm planning right now, I can't tell if I'm going to use 6 colors per pair so that I have 4 pairs total, or if I'm going to use 8 colors per pair and have 3 pairs total. I haven't decided, but either way, I will have all of those colors in a sock and in 2 blankets, one for fingering weight and one for DK weight. And hopefully what that means is that I will have some access, my eyes will have some access to these colorways all year round. So that is very exciting for me. I feel very inspired by that. And I'm very happy with that decision because these colors are getting the love they deserve. You know what I mean? When they were just sitting there, not being worked on, it was making me a little bit sad. And that goes for these other yarns that I have in my stash as well. So the featured yarn that I want to share with you today before I let you go, and oh my gosh, how is it already almost like 45 minutes? I could have sworn today, I told myself it was going to be a shorter episode, but here we are. The other yarn dyer that I just feel blown away by every time is Arcane Fiberworks. They share these reels of like the way that they dye their colorways, and I'm mesmerized by them. Sometimes Sam and I will sit and we'll just like look at like how they dye the colors, and I love that. But a while back I had gotten like I think like 4 different colors, and then I actually got 4 more, but we're not gonna talk about that right now. And after working with the Full Moon Fiber yarns, I decided that I'm gonna do a similar thing with my Arcane Fiberworks colorways, because I really don't want to wait until I have scraps from these balls to make scrappy socks with them. I want like a teaser or a taste sampling of each of these colorways. So let me show you what I got. This one is The Mountains Are Calling. This one is Adventure Awaits. So this is the one that I'm going to use as the heels for the Sharma socks that I shared earlier. Then I have, oh my gosh, this one is so pretty. This one's called Talk Birdie to Me. Isn't that cute? I love that. And then this one is called Life Begins After Coffee. And isn't that the truth? So I don't actually house them in this Amazon box. This is not where they're housed, but I didn't want there to be too much crinkling when I was showing them to you. So I just put them in a little box so that, you know, it wasn't making too much noise. But yeah, my plan is to start a pair of Scrappy Socks with these 4 colors as well. I just want to work with the yarn. I just want to work with the yarn, and I don't want to wait until I've broken into all of them in order to do it. I am inspired though to make a pair of just plain vanilla socks with one of these colorways. I do feel like lately I've been doing a lot of like colorful socks and a lot of socks that are, I don't know, like scrappy with a lot of ends to weave in. So when I made Sam's baby Beluga socks, it was really nice to not have to worry about grabbing another tail of yarn or grabbing another color, having only 2 ends to weave in at the end. Like all of that felt really great. So I do think I want to do a pair of just plain vanilla socks, and I am tempted to do that with either my favorite granny square from Full Moon Fibers or Metamorphic, because now that I have kind of like taste tested these colorways and seeing how they worked up, I'm very excited to make like a full pair of socks with these colors. So there's that. And yeah, that's it. That's all I've got, she says at minute 47, 48. I hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, if you guys have yarns that you are itching to work with, just work with them, cake them up, make scrappy socks with them, do whatever you want. Like, I don't think you need to wait. And I would encourage you to reflect on what it is that's keeping you from working with them and see if you can problem solve, kind of like me. My issue was that I couldn't pick just one. I wanted to work with all of them. And the block that I needed to just get out of the way was the thought that I couldn't do that for some reason. So it was very, very empowering and freeing when I realized, you know what, I can do whatever I want with the yarn that I have. And it's been great. So I will see you guys next time. I don't know if it'll be in a week or in 2 weeks, since, you know, I had so much to share with you this time around. But wherever you are, wherever you're tuning in from, I hope you have a great rest of the day. Happy knitting. Bye.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. You're some kind of bird.